Hey guys, Joe here. Welcome to another Dragon Ball FighterZ video, and welcome back to my patch 1.40 review. Is what I would say if it was still patch 1.40, but now we have, on the Nintendo Switch, patch 1.41, and by God, there were some pretty significant changes made. The ones I didn't cover, because the patch wasn't out yet, I will go over now, but I will go over the ones I haven't gone over in other videos for the respective characters that got those changes. But until then, let's cover the ones that were made. So, first up, A and B assists had their assist cooldown increased. Not by much, but by enough. Here's what they look like now. So now you get about another 2 assists before the C assist recharges. It's not as fast as it was before, but it's not as slow as it was before either. I think that the A and B assist cooldown is now at a very solid middle ground, one that no longer reduces the impact of C assist, which means that C assists are now, I personally would believe, equally as viable as A and B assists now, which is exactly what I feel was needed, in my opinion. But it doesn't end there. The next change is to Super Saiyan Vegeta's Light Crushing Knee Kick, which now got adjusted damage scaling if you use it multiple times in a combo, which looks like this. As you can see, it now does less damage over time, which honestly is fair. But this ultimately does mean that the more you use it in a combo, the less damage you'll be doing overall. The more you use it. So, just keep an eye out. The last 2 changes to cover and get caught up on are for Teen Gohan. The first of which being to his Light Super Dragon Flight, which now, similar to Light Crushing Knee Kick, has adjusted damage scaling. The more you use it in a combo. Now it does less damage over time when you use it. The last of the 2 changes is for the EX version of Super Dragon Flight, which is now maximum power! Minus 12 on block compared to the minus 5 for the video. Honestly, this one change fixes one problem that I had in the previous patch, and I'm so glad that this got nerfed as much as it did. Because having it be minus 5 was ridiculous. But, with that now said and done, we can move on to the topic of today's video, and I have been absolutely looking forward to this. So, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Alright, and now we can get on to the good stuff. The thing you're really here for. Now that we're all caught up, it's time to talk about Captain Ginyu. This is my favorite character in the entire game. I love this character. Everything about him is just incredibly fun. If the last few videos I made some time back didn't already explain that, then, well, hopefully this will. But let me just say right now, Captain Ginyu's changes were among some of the most interesting, but also some of the most amazing buffs in the entire patch. He's not one of the biggest winners, but he is a very big winner, I will admit to that. So, with that all said and done, let's start covering the Captain and the changes he received, shall we? Alright, so first up we have 5H, a button that is notorious for not only being one of the memeiest buttons in the entire game, but also being one of the best buttons in the entire game for just how much of a Swiss Army knife it is. And I do mean Swiss Army knife. It is extremely versatile. And as of this patch, as is tradition, they buffed the move again. You can now cancel out of 5H into 6M. Which is just incredibly funny. Useful, but still funny. Considering all the things this move can do, which I will definitely have to showcase sometime. Not a big video, just a small video going over everything this thing can do. But regardless, the fact that this thing can now, you know, cancel into an overhead as well as mix you up with, you know, the fact that it's a low, because this is a low attack, as it states there. But now it crosses up into you can now cancel it into an overhead. An overhead which is still 24 frames, and as I mentioned in my first video in this patch review, I do kind of wish that 6Ms were 20 frames rather than 24, because just imagine how ridiculous this would be with that kind of change. It would be insane. Funny, but insane. But overall, this is a very good change for Captain Ginyu, especially considering you can do stuff like this. And you're safe on block. 0 on block. So, you know, that's pretty good. It's pretty goddamn good. The next change comes to Guldo's 5S, which is a bug fix. In fact, not even a bug fix, but a glitch fix. See, before this patch, Guldo had this weird glitch where if you used Ginyu's B assist and then swapped to Ginyu and used Guldo, the time stop effect, where if the opponent is in hit stun, as you saw there, Guldo freeze time and hit the opponent with the projectile. If you used Ginyu B and then swapped to Ginyu and used Guldo's 5S, the time stop effect when the opponent was in hit stun would effectively just disappear. Now, if you use Ginyu's B assist and summon Guldo, and then switch back to Ginyu and use Guldo's 5S, the time stop effect no longer disappears after using the assist. This is extremely good for Ginyu, because having a glitch like that, especially with a summon that is as useful as Guldo's 5S, especially in combos, considering 236S and 214S don't do damage, having this back is extremely good, and it definitely helps Ginyu's B assist a ton, which, believe me, we're going to get into that soon as well, but for now, very, very good start. The next change is to Jace's 5S, the Crusher Ball, which now has more block stun. This change is ultimately going to be very good for Ginyu's block pressure, which is already terrifying considering his stagger pressure is really strong. His mix is incredibly terrifying when you combine, you know, all the stagger tools, his summons, and his 5H, which is just a monster of a button in and of itself, as memey as it may be. It's ultimately going to do a lot of good for Ginyu's corner pressure, especially, or for his mid-screen zoning, since, lest we forget, Jace tracks the opponent. He will follow them to the ends of the earth. So, overall, pretty nice change. The next group of changes I want to talk about are for the light version of Ginyu's Strong Jersey, which is the name of his Lariat series. First up is a change to the regular version, which had its knockback adjusted on hits. This is extremely good because this is going to have a lot of combo implications, especially if you use the full screen version to convert into an assist. This is going to do a lot of good for Ginyu because now it's going to let him combo with this move a lot more effectively, a lot more easily, and it'll make certain combos, you know, drop less often, which will be nice, hopefully. But believe me when I tell you, it doesn't stop there. It gets better, because on top of that, the medium auto combo version of Light Strong Jersey also got some buffs. 2 buffs, which completely changed the way it functions. It got increased hit stop and increased stun time, and with those changes, medium auto combo now does this. I cannot, in good conscience, begin to tell you just how much fun this change is, because now, for example, you could do something like this. Mid-screen, or in the corner, you could do something like this. Just as an example. here's a combo I came up with utilizing a beam assist, if I can get it right. That is just one of many combos I was able to come up with utilizing the medium auto combo. But now that you can combo with the medium auto combo, there are just so many more possibilities, and it's just incredible. I love this change with all my heart and soul, and I'm so glad the devs put it in. I would never have thought of this, but I'm glad the devs did, and it is a fantastic change, one that I definitely would keep around, because it gives so much life to Ginyu's combo game. A character who, in my opinion, more than deserves to be, well, we'll get to that later, but I think Ginyu definitely has the potential to be the game's quintessential infinite combo character, but again, like I said, we'll talk about that later. But for now, really good changes. However, the light version of Strong Jersey wasn't the only one to get changed, since the heavy version also got some changes, such as increased block stun and increased hit stop on block, which lets the move do this.
Maximum power!
Plus 10, and it knocks the opponent really far away. This is good, really good, and allow me to show you why, with one simple example.
Maximum power!
That situation right there. I basically opened the opponent up to try and attack me, and I called out Guldo, who just so happened to beat them out. And even if I were to use any other summon, it would still work because I would have that opening. They would have to block whatever summon was coming their way, which grants me the advantage as the Ginyu player, which is just fantastic. It is a really strong buff for Ginyu because now it allows him to open up opponents much easier on his own. And yes, I am aware he does also have this, but not gonna lie, in my opinion, this is much more preferable because at least there's a cost to it. Half a bar. Unlike this, you just have to time it and pray to God your opponent doesn't fucking read you. And even if you're blocking, fun fact, Dragon Rush is a command grab. So you instantaneously have access to a command grab and don't even have to spend meter. You just gotta pray to God they don't fucking try anything. Right? You just do... Do you see how ridiculous that is? I'll go more into that later, but yeah. Definitely gonna choose this over this. Any day of the week. Just saying. The next change is for Raccoon, specifically the Ultra Fighting Miracle Bomber, aka the 214S summon for Raccoon. And if you're wondering why I don't have any meter, you're about to find out. Your eyes did not just deceive you, because you did in fact see Raccoon Ultra Fighting Miracle Bomber build a whole goddamn bar. This is an extremely funny buff for Raccoon, but one that A, makes sense, and B, is actually extremely useful. And now makes Raccoon's Ultra Fighting Miracle Bomber something that has to, you know, condition the player. Because the player either has to come in and knock Raccoon away, because Raccoon cannot be hit with projectiles, he is projectile invul, so physical hits are the only way to knock him down. So you either have to run in and knock him away, or succumb to Ginyu's stagger pressure and, at worst, get hit with the move and either take a ton of block stun, or get hit by it and get comboed the fuck out. So, there's a ton of things that can happen, but whatever does happen, Ginyu is still going to build an entire bar if the whole move goes through. Which is just absolutely insane, especially considering how strong of a battery Ginyu already is. And if you thought he wasn't already enough of a battery, check out this Ultra Fighting Miracle Bomber combo I was able to come up with. Check this shit out. It builds 3 bars. Three and a quarter bars. If that isn't absolutely fucking insane, I don't know what is. But combined with the damage buff from the last patch, as well as the meter building buff from this patch, Raccoon's Ultra Fighting Miracle Bomber is now an insanely good tool. Not something you should use all the time, but when you do get the chance to use it, I would recommend it. Very much so. The next change is for both versions of Purple Comet Crash, which got increased hit stop on guard, which looks like this. Not sure how useful this change is going to be, but it's certainly interesting, I'll give it that. And now we come to Ginyu's assists, all of which got changes, the first of which is A assist, which got more block stun. 38 frames of block stun. I did ask for single hit lariat assists to get more block stun, with this one being one of them, and I guess I had my wish granted, with a little extra thrown in. And that little extra does go a long way, because if you're using this assist, especially in block strings, it's going to be extremely useful. Not sure if this goes full screen though, does it? Hold on. Not entirely, but it goes a pretty solid distance. So if you're using a character that can zone opponents out, like let's say Frieza, having this assist on deck is definitely pretty good, especially if you need to kind of run up. Especially if you need to run up and, you know, get at him with a safe assist on deck. Ginyu's Lariat assist now having more block stun is definitely going to help with that. It's a change I wanted and a change that, of course, I got, so I'm pretty happy about it. Then we come to the B assist, which, of course, was given the Crusher Ball changes and the Purple Comet attack changes, as mentioned before, so I'm not going to go over those again. But one other change that Ginyu B got was that you no longer summon one member of the Ginyu Force with the B assist, nor do you have difficulty summoning the Ginyu Force members as Ginyu, because that glitch has been fixed. Both glitches have been fixed for the B assist, which is extremely good because that has been troubling for so unbelievably long. So what would happen is you would summon the B assist, they would get hit, and eventually they would just start, you know, appearing one by one rather than in pairs. And that would also affect Ginyu because, well, Ginyu would have difficulty calling out his summons on the fly, especially when they should have, you know, summoned. So this is going to be extremely good for Ginyu. I would showcase it, but if you want more information on that glitch, go check out Mr. Acolyte's video on it. I'll leave a description link to that and the Guldo glitch video in the descriptions below if you want to go check that out. You'll get better details from those videos rather than from me. And the last assist to talk about, and the last change for Captain Ginyu overall, is to his C assist, which now has more block stun. 60 frames of block stun. Pretty good for a C assist, but it's still Ginyu's C assist. Nothing really that special. Not a lot of utility. Not much going for it. So, nice change, but it doesn't really fix how not great this assist is. And with that, we have covered all of the changes that Ginyu got this patch, and quite honestly, every change this character got was excellent. Absolutely excellent. From the glitches being patched out of the game, to Ultra Fighting Miracle Bomber being given some new utility and a new use case, and being even better than it was before, as well as the changes to the light and heavy versions of Strong Jersey, with light version being a better combo tool, as well as the medium auto combo actually being useful for combos, and then the EX Lariat, aka the heavy version of Strong Jersey, becoming a great way to open up opponents, is extremely good. I love everything Ginyu got this patch. Everything Ginyu got this patch was excellent. Very, very good. But that doesn't stop the fact that there are definitely still things for Ginyu that I would like to see. Not just buffs, but also nerfs, quality of life changes, and a couple of new things. What those are, I'll go over those in a minute. But there are definitely still things that Ginyu could use, in my opinion. I think the character is great, but I think the character needs to be scaled back in a couple areas, and given some boosts in others. And I think the character could use a couple of, like I said, new things as well. What those new things are, well, you'll find out. But with that said, I think it's about time we get to the last part of the video, where I go over all the changes I personally would make to the character. But I'm going to do it a bit differently this time. How? You'll see. So, without further ado, let's get started. You guys know what time it is. It's time to go over all the changes I would personally give to the character. And believe me when I tell you, I have an entire goddamn laundry list of changes that I would give to Ginyu. As for what those changes are, well, let's go over them all, shall we? The first change I would make to Ginyu is to the last hit of his auto combo, which currently does this. It has a vacuum effect, and it's useless. And you want to know what's worse? This is the only application that this has. Now, this would be good if it weren't for one tiny little problem. That problem being, the opponent is more than likely going to wreck your ship before you can even summon Guldo. So by the time you're done with the auto combo, the opponent will have more than enough time to throw out a move, throw you off your rhythm, and get their turn. Which is why I would make two changes to the last hit of Ginyu's auto combo, the first of which being to remove the vacuum effect, since it's pretty much useless. And with that, I would replace the vacuum effect with the ability to combo out of the last hit of the auto combo into Ginyu's grounded heavies, which are 5H and 2H on block, and only on block. And I say that he should be able to combo into his grounded heavies out of his full auto combo on block because, let's be honest, how the fuck do you expect to combo into Ginyu's grounded heavies after doing this? You see the problem there? The problem is that it doesn't make fucking sense. So, instead, he should be able to cancel into his grounded heavies on block, which I think would definitely grant the captain not only, a new use case for his full auto combo and a much more useful use case for his auto combo, but also it would allow the captain to, mix up his mix-ups. And his mix is already really strong, so why not give him even stronger mix-ups by letting him do that? Especially considering one of his best mix-ups look like this. One of his best block strings look like this. Right? Now, just imagine that, but you do... You combo it into this, and you just start your pressure. Or better yet, now that the changes to EX Lariat have been made, you can now do this as well. So imagine being able to do... and then cancel it into... Being able to mix up your mix would be incredibly good for the captain, and it would make his mix even stronger than it already is. So I think, if anything, the auto combo needs to be rid of that vacuum effect and be given something a lot more useful. Like I said, the most useful thing I could think of is letting him combo out of the auto combo, the full auto combo, into his grounded heavies, which are 5H and 2H, on block. Because it would allow him to get some incredibly strong and incredibly quick pressure mix-ups, which would be really good. The next group of changes I would make are to Ginyu's 5H, because if I don't buff his 5H, I'd be a fucking nut job. But before I get into the changes I would give 5H, I first feel it necessary to at least take one thing away from 5H. One single thing. And if I had to choose one thing to take away, this would be it. I've already expressed why I don't like being able to cancel 5H into Dragon Rush. I'm not going to go over it again, but I will say this. It's bullshit. And unlike this, it doesn't have a cost. Right? Being able to do this, it has no cost to it. It's so piss easy to do, a 3-year-old could figure that out. Right? And they would know just how good it is. Like, that's just a little too much. So I would definitely take that away. First and foremost. As for the changes I would give 5H, let's start with the first two, which pretty much go hand in hand. So first things first, I want you to take a look at something. Ginyu's 5H does not go full screen. It goes almost full screen, but it doesn't go full screen. So the first change I would make is to increase the distance of the attack and make it go full screen, which you might think is a little bit much, but if you think about it, and let me just show you this again. Since the move already almost goes full screen, why not just let it go the full fucking distance? Like, what's the harm it's gonna do? Right? Like, oh, you decide to cover it with an assist. Right? Like, oh, you decided to cover it with an assist? Congratulations, what the fuck up, right? You know what I mean? Like, what's the harm? What's the honest to God harm? And in addition to letting the move go full screen, another change I would give to the move is have the movement speed of the attack be increased when the opponent is in hit stun, which would overall just be a combo change for the move. And for the record, that change specifically that I would give to this move would be one of many combo changes I have listed down, but we are going to get to those. So, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Or rather, cross those bridges when we get there. But first and foremost, like I just said, first thing I would do is give 5H the ability to go full screen and have the move, you know, gain increased movement speed when the opponent is in hit stun to make it better in combos. It's not bad in combos, but it definitely could use a bit more combo utility, in my opinion anyways. So that's the best play. As for the last few changes I have for Ginyu's 5H, they are catered to the mid-air version of 5H, aka when you jump with the move. The ability to jump with Ginyu's 5H is really good, but it's only reserved for, you know, cross-ups and being able to steal the corner. But I want to give the ability to jump with Ginyu's 5H a bit more utility, and that's what these last 4 changes are for. starting with the first of these changes, which is if you hold up while jumping, you now gain more height. Nothing too crazy, but enough to have Ginyu's kneecaps reach Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's head. That kind of height. The second change I would make is if you are doing the midair if you are jumping with 5H, if you do a midair dash input, which is back dash, forward dash, you will now be able to do the midair dash forward and backwards out of a 5H. In other words, you'd be able to cancel into a midair dash out of 5H if you do it while jumping. So if you jump, you can do a midair dash out of it. But that's not all. Because I also want the move to be able to attack while in midair. So the next change I would make is to have the move actually be able to attack the opponent while midair. Now the properties of the attack will remain the same on hit, but on block, if you do 5H and hit somebody with the midair version, you'd be able to cancel out of it with any of Ginyu's aerial buttons, such as jumping heavy, which allows Ginyu to be extremely plus on block. And considering that you can now do shit like this, yeah, I don't think I need to tell you that having the ability to do 5H into jumping heavy into EX Lariat, and then being able to cancel that into a summon, would be extraordinarily good for the captain. Potentially busted, potentially, but also really good for the captain, because it would give Ginyu's block string pressure much more of a threatening presence. And considering Ginyu's pressure and mix are extraordinarily strong, giving him options like that would definitely help in that. And it, again, would grant the jumping version of 5H a lot more utility, which is exactly what I was going for. So if I could add any changes to Ginyu's 5H, to summarize, it would be allowing the move to go full screen, letting the move become faster when the opponent is in hit stun, holding up to allow the move to jump higher, getting the ability to cancel into a midair dash whilst doing the midair version, being able to attack while doing the midair version, and being able to cancel out of the midair version on block. This would ultimately grant Ginyu's 5H a lot more A, combo utility, and B, utility as a strong cross-up and pressure option, which is exactly what I think the captain could use, in my opinion. Could it be a little too much? Maybe, but in my opinion, I think it's pretty justified. I mean, to be fair, anything is better than this. The next changes I would make are to Ginyu's EX Lariat, aka this move.
Maximum power!
Now this move, in and of itself, is really good, and for the most part, it's fine, but I do have one issue with it. And yes, this is that issue.
Maximum power!
It goes full screen. Now just think about this, right? Knowing what we know about this move and what it's capable of, it has a lot of pushback on block, which means you can, call, one of your summons after, pushing the opponent back to get an opening. And if you hit the opponent, you get a full guaranteed combo out of it, which is kind of just ridiculous. And the fact that it can go full screen makes it even more threatening. So the first thing I would do is reduce the distance the move goes from full screen to about half screen, making it a little more manageable to deal with. However, I don't want to fully get rid of the full screen travel distance. Instead, I would prefer to take the full screen travel distance and apply it to when the opponent is in hit stun. This way, the full screen EX Lariat can be used more as a combo tool rather than just an extremely oppressive option. So to summarize, I would nerf the distance it travels when the opponent isn't in hit stun by 50%, and then let it go full screen when the opponent is in hit stun, which, yet again, is a combo change. Another one of many, which again we will go into, but I feel like if the EX Lariat were to have its distance cut in half outside of the opponent being in hit stun, I think it would make the move much more balanced. I mean, especially considering, obviously it's plus 10, it has a lot of knockback, which can allow you to, summon, call one of your summons and open up your opponent, as well as, on hit you get a guaranteed combo out of it. But also the startup. 13 frame startup. That's pretty good. That's really good. So I think with all that in consideration, I think it's fair to reduce the distance that the EX Lariat travels. I think it would make it much more fair. But again, I'd rather have the full screen travel distance be reserved for when the opponent is in hit stun, which makes it much better for combos. And coming up next are a list of changes for a few of the Ginyu Force summons. Specifically, all of Guldo's summons, one of Birder's summons, and two of Jace's summons. What these changes are, I will definitely be going into in full detail, but I'll make it so that it's easily digestible for you all. So, with that said, let's jump. First up is Guldo's 5S. In regards to the move's functionality, I have no issues with it. It's perfect. Especially with the buff given to it in patch 1.31, where it freezes time when the opponent is in hit stun, as well as the glitch being fixed in this recent patch. It is pretty much in a perfect state. But there is one little nitpicky thing I would like to go over, and I would definitely like to see changed. And that's with the move's visuals. More specifically, the visuals of the projectile being thrown. As you can see, rather than throwing the tree like he does in the manga and anime, he instead throws a giant, sharp, pointed rock that he has been throwing since the game's beginning. And that's always bugged me. I don't know why he throws the rock instead of the tree, but I would much prefer the visuals of that attack be changed to have Guldo throwing the tree to make it more manga and anime accurate rather than that pointed rock. I get what they were going for with the reference of the move, but I would rather if they went the full distance with it, personally. Other than that, the move is perfect. Next up is Guldo's 236S, aka Paralysis. Now, it's not so much paralysis in and of itself, specifically the 236S variant, that I have a problem with. No. I have a problem with the 214S variant. And to showcase why, let me show you the difference between these two. That's the 236S version, and this is the 214S version. The difference between the two is pretty night and day, but to summarize, with 236S, Guldo spawns closer to the opponent. He tracks them, while 214S stays closer to Ginyu. Both moves function identically to each other because they're the same move, the only difference being where Guldo spawns. And the fact that there are two versions of the same move just bothers me. It bothers me tons. Now, I'm not opposed to having two different versions of Paralysis, but I don't think both variants should have their own individual inputs. I think that, if anything, the 214S input should be attached to the 236S input so that the 214S summon slot could be opened up. And speaking of that, if I were to take the 214S version of Paralysis and attach it to the 236S input, I would have it to where if you wanted to use that version, you would have to press the button twice. So for the normal 236S version of Paralysis, you would do a single button press, 236S. That one would track the opponent. But the alternate one, the 214S version, or version 2 as I'll call it, that version would be activated with 2 button presses, so it would be 236SS, which would summon the 214S version. This way, both versions of Paralysis can stay while freeing up the 214S summon slot. As for what I would put in the 214S summon slot, well, you're about to find out. So hypothetically speaking, let's say that the 214S version, or version 2, of Guldo's Paralysis were attached to the 236S input with an extra button press attached. That would then leave the 214S slot free and open for a new move to be put in its place, as I mentioned before. Which then brings about the question of what would replace Paralysis? Well, thankfully, after doing some research, by utilizing the source material, and no, I don't mean the manga or the anime, I actually mean the games, because that's the only other source material I can think to use, and the one that makes the most sense in this case, honestly, as well as the one that absolutely gave me the answer I needed. I finally found what I was looking for. The move that would fill in the 214S slot. That move being Psychic Rock Throw. Yeah, Psychic Rock. Now I know there's going to be a number of you who don't really know what I'm talking about, but for those of you who do, good on you. For those who don't, allow me to explain. Guldo's Psychic Rock Throw is a signature move of the character in which he takes a large round rock, not a boulder, but just a large round rock, and chucks it at the opponent for decent damage. Nothing too crazy. But when I saw this move, I thought, this would be perfect. It would basically be just a beefed up version of Guldo's 5S. And that's exactly what I think the character could use. It would be similar to 5S, but not entirely. Animation, sure, but in regards to the actual attack itself and the projectile that Guldo throws, no. And thusly, once I figured out this is what I wanted to do, I began not only listing it down, but also writing down the statistics for the move's functionality. And well, this is what I came up with. This right here is how I want Psychic Rock Throw to function in Dragon Ball. I wanted the concept of the move to remain intact, having Guldo throw a large round rock at the opponent. But, considering this is Dragon Ball FighterZ, I had to take some liberties with it, creative and otherwise. So the first thing I did was make the projectile go full screen, because if 5S can do it, why can't this? Then there's the hit reaction of the projectile, both on block and on hit. And for that, I would make the projectile hit twice. The first hit being the initial contact of the rock, and the second being an explosion hitbox of sorts from the rock breaking apart. The startup of the move would be the same as Paralysis, being 27 frames. The damage would be 600 on the first hit, with another 300 on the second hit, equaling out to 900 damage total. It would gain 40 meter, with each hit gaining 20 meter per hit. 60 frames of hit stun, with another 20 frames of recovery, equaling out to 80 frames of hit stun. And for block stun, 30 frames per hit to equal out to 60 frames of block stun total. In my opinion, these stats are perfect for a move like Psychic Rock Throw. And it would definitely make the move feel very FighterZ-esque, if that makes any sense. It would make the move feel at home in this game. And it would certainly be a great addition to Ginyu's repertoire of summons. I definitely think it should be added into the game, personally. Whether it will be or not, I doubt it, but hey, I'm holding out for hope. Next up, I want to talk about Birder's 2-3 success. Now, in regards to the current version of the move, I have no problem with it, especially because of the buffs it got in patch 1.38, which, well, take a look. It combos into itself. But more than that, the opponent is now in a longer state of hit stun, which allows for easier confirms, which is great. But there is a caveat to this. What that caveat consists of is the removal of a lot of Ginyu's old combos, which can't be done with the current version of Birder's 2-3 success, which basically means they're effectively removed from the game, which, not gonna lie, is a shame. And in my opinion, as much of a nitpick as it's going to sound like, it's a problem. To me, it is a problem, because it detracts from Ginyu's combo game. At least I feel so. Now, for those of you who don't remember or don't know what the old version of Birder's 2-3 success looked like, it used to put the opponent in a state of hit stun for a total of 35 frames, plus another 20 frames of recovery, equaling up to 55 frames of hit stun, which wasn't a lot. It did mean that Ginyu's confirms with Birder's 2-3 success were rather tight in execution and extremely precise, but it was manageable. And it wasn't like there couldn't be, cool combos done using that version. There were plenty. Ginyu players are creative people, and with the right mindset and a high enough skill set, they could make anything happen. But, of course, with the removal of the old version of Birder's 2-3 success, those combos are effectively gone, which to me is quite a shame. However, that's when an idea struck me. That idea being, what if I took the concept I gave to Guldo's paralysis, aka his 2-3 success, which I mentioned earlier, and applied that to Birder? This would allow Birder to have two versions of his 2-3 success, with the current version of the move being version 1, and the older version of the move being version 2, which would obviously, as I mentioned before, require 2 button presses. But I wouldn't stop there, because in addition to that, I would also give version 2, aka the older version of Birder's 2-3 success, a well-deserved quality of life buff, an increase in hit stun. That increase bringing up the hit stun from 55 frames to 65 frames, meaning the opponent would be in hit stun for a total of 45 frames, with another 20 in recovery. This would make Ginyu's older combos a lot more lenient and require a lot less tight execution, making them easier to perform than ever before. With these changes, not only would Ginyu be able to keep his current combos with the current version of Birder's 2-3 success, but he would also get his older combos back with the older version of the move, in addition to having them be easier to perform without such tight execution. This ultimately does make this a combo change overall, but that's not to say you can't use it in neutral or for mix, especially considering, well, both versions look identical, so it'd be a similar situation to Melee Game & Watch's grabs. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, Game & Watch's grabs are pretty much identical to each other. So you don't know which way he's throwing you, so you can't really DI it properly. Which would be a similar situation with if you were to just throw out Birder's 2-3 success mid-screen. You could either get the one that combos into itself, or not. That's what the mix-up would be. But it would still do, it would still perform the same function it always has. And that would make it extremely potent, especially mid-screen, especially when you're trying to keep the opponent grounded. That would do so many favors for Ginyu. But overall, yes, it would be a combo change, but as I said before, it can also be used in neutral. These changes would do a lot for Ginyu's combo game, especially though. And it would give Ginyu more combos than he's ever had before. And combined with the Guldo changes I mentioned earlier, as well as the changes to Jace that I'm going to talk about in a bit here, This is going to take, these changes altogether would take Ginyu's combo game to a whole nother level. How much of another level? Well, I'll leave that up to the imagination. The next changes I want to talk about are to Jace's 236S and 214S. But before I cover 236S, and there's a reason for that, I first want to cover 214S, so I'm going in reverse here. So starting with 214S, which is Purple Comet Attack, the change I'm making to this move is specifically the opposite of what I did for Guldo's 236S. And when I say the exact opposite, I mean it. So rather than having the 214S version of Purple Comet Attack be attached to the 236S input, I'm doing the opposite, taking the 236S version and applying it to the 214S input with an extra button press attached. So the 214S version of Purple Comet Attack, which spawns over Ginyu, which I'll label version 1 to keep it simple, will require a single button press and will be the front runner. Version 2, which is the 236S version, will require 2 button presses, the one that spawns over the opponent. So that's it for Purple Comet Attack, pretty much the same thing as Guldo's Paralysis. So with that said, let's move on to what Jace's new 236S. So hypothetically, again, let's say I make that change to Purple Comet Attack, take the 236S version and apply it to the 214S input with an extra button press attached, right? That then leaves 236S open for a new move. So that then begs the question, what would that new move be? Well, that's simple. Another move from Budokai Tenkaichi 3. That move being the Full Power Energy Wave, or as I would dub it, because I think it more than deserves a, new name, one that's fitting to Jace. Instead of having it be called the Full Power Energy Wave, I would instead call it the Magma Cannon. Get it? Because Jace is the red magma of the Ginyu Force. It makes sense, right? Right? Please, guys, I'm trying. As for what the Full Power Energy Wave is, or as I call it, the Magma Cannon, basically, it's a beam. And because it's a beam, I have a lot to work with here. Of course, like I said before, I have to take some creative liberties, like I did with Guldo's Psychic Rock Throw, as mentioned earlier in the video. But, thankfully, since there are so many beam attacks in the game, I had a lot to work with. And, of course, with that came statistics. So, here's what those look like. I know this is all a lot to cover, but let's just take this one by one and go over it slowly so you guys can digest this all. So starting off, Jace fires the beam similarly to Trunks' 5S, or more specifically, the beam is designed similarly to Trunks' 5S, but Jace fires it similarly to how he does in Budokai Tenkaichi 3. And as for the beam's functionalities, they differ between the ground and the air. So, let's cover. First, let's cover the ground version, which has 2 variants. The first variant being a regular horizontal beam, which would function similarly to Master Roshi's Kamehameha, being a single hit beam with a massive wall bounce at the end, which I think is the perfect functionality for this type of beam. It just makes a ton of sense. And as for the second variant, if you press the button twice, rather than once, Jace will instead fire the beam similarly to Gogeta Blue's Gallic Gun, at the literal same angle and with the exact same type of knockback. Except it'll function more similarly to Jace's Crusher Ball with an immediate ground bounce after they hit the ground. Because it just makes sense. And then there's the air version, which again would fire similarly to Gogeta Blue's Gallic Gun, but instead of doing what Crusher Ball does and have them bounce off the ground and then recover, it would instead bounce them off the ground and send them into a sliding knockdown, allowing you to end combos early with that version of the move, which would allow Ginyu to start setting up for his corner pressure and for his mix and for his setups a lot sooner. As for the other statistics, the startup on all versions of the move would be 20 frames, similar to that of Crusher Ball. It would deal 800 damage, build 35 meter. The horizontal version, aka the first variant of the grounded version, would have 80 frames of hit stun, 60 frames in which the opponent is actually in hit stun, plus another 20 frames of recovery. The sliding knockdown from the air version would have them in hit stun for 60 frames, 40 frames in which they're actually in the sliding knockdown, plus another 20 frames of recovery. And the block stun would be 30 frames, similar to most beams in the game. Take, for example, Trunks' B assist. It just makes sense to have a beam be 30 on block. I'm not going to say too much for Purple Comet Attack, other than what I said for Guldo's Paralysis. If there's two versions of the same move, with the only difference between them being where they spawn, they should both be on a singular input, not on two different inputs. That's ridiculous. And speaking of that, as I said, if both versions of Purple Comet Attack were attached to the 214S input, I think if any move should be given to Jace for his 236S input, it should be Full Power Energy Wave. A, because it makes the most sense, and B, this move would have a lot of potential, especially considering it would give Ginyu a second beam attack and make his selection of summons a lot more versatile. And having a beam similar to that of Master Roshi, that comes out as fast as Crusher Ball, and that has so much utility in so many situations, it would do the character a lot of good. Next up, I want to talk about both of Ginyu's level 3s, which I think at this point should have their inputs swapped, because as it currently stands, body change, if you're using a controller, requires you to do quarter circle back or 214 and then hit the bumper. While the Ginyu Force level 3, aka Together We Are the Ginyu Force, requires you to do quarter circle back or 214 and then hit the trigger. Which makes no fucking sense. So, what I would like to see is for the Ginyu Force level 3 to require you to hit the bumper, and for body change to require you to hit the trigger. This way, you have Ginyu's proper level 3 at your disposal at all times, and then in the back corner, in your back pocket, you have body change if you so want to use it or need it. And staying on the topic of body change, I do have one very specific nerf for this super, that being an increase to the key cost. As it currently stands, body change costs 3 bars. And the additional input costs half a bar. Yeah, so that's pretty cheap for a super that could basically just steal your opponent's character in the blink of an eye, if you land it. So, I think it would be wise to increase the key cost. On a normal body change, I would increase the cost from 3 bars to 4, and for an additional input, I would increase the cost from half a bar back to a full bar. This way, a regular body change would be 4 bars, and the additional input would cost 5. Which, yes, does mean that the high key cost does add up with the high risk, but if you land this super, the reward is just as high. So, even if it does cost more, I'd say it's still worth it in the situations where it's worth it. The last few changes I want to talk about are to all of Ginyu's assists. Starting with A assist, I would give it one simple buff: a faster startup, because as it currently stands, it has a 25 frame startup, which isn't bad, but compared to other lariat assists, specifically single hit style lariat assists, this is pretty sluggish. So I would like to see this assist be sped up to 20 frames compared to the 25 frames it is now, and be put on par with other single hit lariat assists. Not much more other than that. If that change were made, this assist would be perfect. Next up, I have a group of changes for Ginyu's B assist, with the first one being Guldo's 5S does not freeze time when the opponent is in hit stun when using Ginyu's B assist. As you can see, where Guldo should have frozen time there, he did not, meaning that you do not get an extension off of that. I mean, unless you absolutely tried, but it's not easy, especially mid-screen. So, one thing I would like to see is for the change that Guldo got last patch, or 2 patches ago now, to be added to his Ginyu's B assist. Which, I don't know why it wasn't 2 patches ago, but oh well. Or even in the recent patch for that matter, but, you know. Next change I want to see is actually to the way the assist works in regards to the summon rotations. And this is going to get complicated, so I'll try to explain it to the best of my ability. So as it currently stands, Ginyu's B assist has this specific rotation. You start out with 5S summons, then you get the 236S summons, and then comes the 214S summons. Before cycling back to the 5S summons. So that is not as complicated as it used to be, and I say that for when Ginyu B used to summon only one Ginyu Force member at a time, compared to the 2 that it does now, which makes it a lot easier to track. But regardless, this cycle, this rotation, I suppose you could call it, is just a little too problematic because of how confusing, chaotic, headache-inducing it can be, not only for the user, but also for the opponent. It's just a lot of confusion and chaos, and it's just way too much at once. Which is why I've come up with a solution to keep Ginyu B the way it is, utilizing all 3 summon types, but having it be a little more consistent, shall we say. Let me explain. The idea I came up with was to have each summon type get their own rotation. So if you do a 5S summon, a 5S summon will follow afterwards and then cycle back. So if you have Guldo and Recoome paired up, let's say, and they do their 5S summons, Jace and Berter are next, and they'll do their 5S summons, and then cycle back to Recoome and Goldo's 5S summons. So it'll start out on a rotation of purely just the 5S summons, but if you hold down, you can change the summon type, which then changes the rotation. So you can go from the 5S summons to the 236S summons and do that rotation, and if you hold down while calling the assist again, you can then summon the 214S summons, and if you want to go back to the 5S summons, you hold down while calling the assist to do it again. So what I'm basically getting at is, you start out with the 5S summons, but if you wish to switch to the 236S summons and get that rotation, you hold down while calling the assist. Or, if you want to go to the 214S summons, again, hold down and call the assist. If you want to go back to the 5S summons, again, hold down and call the assist. This way, you can either stick with a very specific summon type rotation, or you could mix and match them as often as you like. And combine this with the ability to mix up the pairings from Guldo and Raccoon and Birder and Jace to Raccoon and Birder to Jace and Guldo, you'll have all of these summon types at your disposal. And if you want to access a specific one, like I said, with the two types of pairings, all you gotta do is just hold down. So if you want to stick with one type of summon, you can, but if you want to switch between them on the fly and have it be like the current version of Ginyu B, you are more than welcome to do that. That's what I think should be done for Ginyu's B assist, to make it much more consistent and grant manual control to the player on how they prefer to use the assist. And the last thing I would like to see for Ginyu's B assist is a flat rate of meter build, because as it currently stands, 5S summons build 25% meter, 236S summons build 50% meter, and 214S summons build 75% meter. I think the assist should just build meter at a flat rate, that flat rate being 50%. The assist, with every time you use it, should just build half a bar and nothing more. And with that, that is all the changes I would make to Ginyu's B assist. Not only to make it more consistent, but to give the player more control over how they want to use the assist, which I think would make it more consistent, less chaotic, and more fun. The last assist I want to talk about, and the last change I would make to Ginyu overall, is to Ginyu's C assist, because as it currently stands, it's nothing too special. However, there was something that caught my eye, specifically on block. That right there, that gave me an idea. So, if you've noticed, the second hit of the C assist on block is the last hit of Ginyu's auto combo. And Ginyu's auto combo, in regards to the last hit of the auto combo, does this. It has a vacuum effect. So I thought, why not give the vacuum effect to the second hit of Ginyu's C assist on block? This way, Ginyu's C assist could have some utility as an assist that can let you steal the corner without having to utilize meter. Sure, you would still be spending your C assist as a resource, but at the very least you wouldn't have to spend meter or use a super of some kind just to steal the corner. You would just have to use Ginyu C assist, pull them out of the corner, and boom, there you go. Now, I'm not saying that would make the assist broken or even good, but it would certainly make it better, grant it some genuine utility, and make it a lot more worth using than it is now. Probably doesn't say much, but it's Ginyu C. What can I really say? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the video. And by God all fucking mighty, was this video exhausting to make. But I did it because I wanted to do it, and I wanted to put every bit of effort I could into it. And this is the end result. I do apologize that this video couldn't be released on the date it was supposed to be, but it took so long to get everything I needed to make this happen that what can I even say? It took way too long to get everything I needed, and it was exhausting. I had to do so many goddamn takes, and this isn't the first video in this series to have that be the case. But unlike the other ones, this one was a fucking long one, a drag. But was it worth it? For my main? Abso-fucking-lutely. It was absolutely worth it. And I would more than do it again. And, of course, I will have to do it again. For another character down the line. But at least for the time being, I don't gotta worry about it. So, I'm good. But, with this being the end of the video, I guess, yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. So next time we are going to cover Trunks. And thankfully that video will be a little bit shorter in regards to the changes I would make to him. But aside from that, I've got nothing else to say. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, then I'm glad. I'm really glad. And until we meet again, don't do anything stupid and take good care of yourselves. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye. Hey guys, so before the video officially ends, I have a few more things I'd like to say. Firstly, if you guys made it through this entire video, thank you. It means a lot to me. And I also want to apologize for the numerous audio cuts in the video. I don't know what the fuck happened or how it happened, but I will get to the bottom of why this happened and fix it for future videos. Another thing I want to say is the Ginyu combo guide is going to take a bit to come out. I am going to keep to my word. It will come out after this, but not for a little while, because this video was draining to make. I'll fill in the gaps with other types of content until then, that aren't Dragon Ball FighterZ related, but until then, yeah, it's going to be a while before I make that combo video. But it will happen, I promise you that. And last but not least, Twitch. I am going to start streaming on Twitch. In fact, this Friday, I am going to stream on Twitch for the first time, with my first stream being myself playing Shadow the Hedgehog for the Nintendo GameCube. Since it is the 20th anniversary of the game's release, and I will be beating the game fully. And then Saturday, I'll be streaming again, where I will 100% complete the game. Well, actually, that one's up in the air. If after the Friday stream, I don't want to do the 100% completion stream, I won't do it. But if I do feel like doing it, then I absolutely will. But, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But, until then, I'm exhausted. This video took a long time to make, but it was worth it. It wasn't the best, but it was worth it. So, you guys waited long enough for this video, so I hope you enjoyed it to some degree. And like I said before, until we meet again, don't do anything stupid and take good care of yourselves. Thank you again so unbelievably much for watching. Thank you all so unbelievably much for the support. I'm back up to where I was before I deleted my channel the first time. 77 subscribers. You guys are the best. You guys are all the best. Thank you. And that's it. That's all I've got. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye. Oh, I need a fucking vacation.